Hi, this is Squee116 coming straight to you from my computer. Today I will be doing a brief intro and tutorial on how to play Company of Heroes using the Americans, more specifically the Armor Company branch. I've set up a basic skirmisher between me and an easy computer just for the sake of time. Easy computer I'll be able to finish off much quicker than any of the other difficulties. I've set the game to be a quick 500 point victory point match, which is essentially a King of the Hill type game, where you try to capture 3 points set throughout the map of Angeville. And if you have a majority of the maps, you basically start subtracting tickets from the other person's total pool. Once they go from 500 to 0, you win, or if you pretty much just annihilate their base. I'm using the basic settings for if you just have plain Company of Heroes. Except for one unit which I've substituted out from Tales of Valor. But other than that, this is pretty much a universal tutorial. It'll work whether or not you have the expansion packs or Tales of Valor. And let's just start. Here's a pretty basic loading screen from Company of Heroes capturing a battle scene on their map. This is actually a scene from Angeville. This may or may not look familiar to you by the end of the battle. It's actually within one of the small areas of urbanization that's actually on the map. Here you can see the basic starting screen of any given game. You'll start off with an engineer team, as well as a headquarters to produce more engineers. You can see I immediately started construction work on a barracks. Many people try to do a engineer rush, but I believe that with my personal style of play, I fare much better by getting rifleman squads onto the field as quickly as possible. I've also started construction on a second engineer. Reason being is that engineers are really early good means of capturing points, as well as building buildings, and even if need be, being pressed into defensive service, attacking the other players. But preferred, I'd rather have a rifleman doing that last part. Engineers are kind of squishy when it comes to armor, whereas riflemen are a little bit more robust, and they can be upgraded to be fairly useful against all forms of enemy. You can see I'm starting to grab points now as I extend out from the map. Here you can see some just basic buildings that the engineer can build. If you'd prefer, in the beginning, you could build a weapons support center instead of a barracks, which puts out MG teams, snipers, and mortars. They're all very useful and have a really kind of specific utility that they fulfill. But I find that the more robust purpose of just early game is better filled by riflemen. As you may have noticed by now, I'm actually stacking or queuing actions. It makes managing a game a lot easier, especially one as complex and deep as this one. By stacking actions, you're actually able to queue up an action immediately after the unit performs the previous action it was told to do. So you can basically just tell a single engineer unit to capture a bunch of points in sequence along a certain part of the map. And by doing that, you can focus better on the combat as it's going on and not have to worry about whether or not you're accomplishing all the things you need to accomplish like while the battle's going on. Here you see me engaging with their engineers instead of trying to capture more points with the riflemen. I find that it's a lot more, it serves more of a purpose to dissuade them from expanding early on, just trying to intimidate them from expanding farther than they are already. Also, the further you push them back, the more you can interrupt their own resource gathering by cutting them off at the stem. In this game, if you cut off or if you disconnect territories, they lose the properties or the resource gain from disconnected territories. So if you can push them back far enough and cut them off by capturing the points closer to them, you serve a double purpose of both gaining resources for yourself as well as cutting straight into their resource gain. Here you see I've created a jeep. Jeeps are really good at sniffing out snipers who can camouflage themselves and essentially go invisible. And they're also good at dealing with early on units like Pioneers, or which is their version of the Engineers, or various other light infantry. You can see here I've made use of cover in a building with my riflemen, which have greatly extended their defensive capabilities. It also prevents them from being pinned down, which is of great use when they're bringing up MG teams and you still need to fire back.
Put her in gear.
You can see that the building really was a game changer up there, and the one rifle team was able to hold off far more units than it should have been able to. Additionally, you see me here coming to high resource points on the left side of the map. The left and right side of the map are occupied by high output resource points. They put out 16 resources, whereas most will only put out 5 or 10 in a map. And control of these can really change, early control of these can really change the flow of the game. Here you've seen how the Jeep can be used to run down infantry, essentially, even into MG fire and not be pinned down, which is one of the great benefits of having a vehicle in your arsenal. Again, I will be using the Armor Company in this particular game, so you'll be able to see just how effective being able to ignore MG fire truly is. That is a victory point right there. There's essentially 3 of those spread out through the map, and control of them, at least a control of a majority of them, decreases the ticket counter on their opponent's team. This is the command menu here, where you can pick your specialization. You can get to it by clicking on that button surrounded by a green bar. The green bar goes up every time you gain experience until you reach a new level, in which case it restarts. Here you see me building a supply yard, which can reduce the amount of resources it takes to upkeep your army, as well as leads to the second tier of buildings, being tank depot and motor pool. Here you see me making extremely good use of cover by taking cover behind the truck while the MG takes time to set up. In that time period, I was able to counter what would essentially be one of the most effective anti-infantry units in the game with infantry, simply by moving a few meters and making effective use of heavy cover. And the setup time really does make a difference here. Here you can also see I finished the supply depot, and I'm about to begin construction on the motor pool. The motor pool will let me gain access to AT guns, as well as light tanks or armored cars. The armored cars are great offensive weapons against infantry and other light vehicles, and especially against early on buildings. When upgraded, they can be quite an offensive power. AT guns have a pretty limited usefulness. I mean, they can take out infantry at a distance. Their range is quite astounding. However, really, their main purpose is to kill tanks, which I'm not really seeing any right now. You're about to see me make use again of movement and cover and setup time with MG&S by using an engineer team, who's not particularly great when it comes to offensive power, but just using light cover and good movement. Even an engineer team can counter a machine gun team at close range.